You've probably had days where you were busy from the moment you woke up until the moment you went to bed. Meetings, emails, calls, errands, messages. You barely had time to think. But at the end of the day, when someone asked what you actually accomplished, you couldn't really say. You were doing things all day, but nothing felt finished. This isn't about poor time management or lack of focus. It's about a gap that most people don't realize exists. The gap between activity and progress. Between being busy and getting things done. And that gap is wider than it seems. We tend to treat busyness as a sign that we're being productive. If you're moving, responding, checking things off, it feels like you're making progress. But activity and accomplishment aren't the same thing. One measures motion. The other measures results. And your brain has a hard time telling them apart in the moment. When you're busy, your brain gets a lot of small rewards. You reply to a message, you get a tiny hit of completion. You attend a meeting, you feel like you participated. You reorganize your task list, it looks like you did something. These actions create a sense of momentum. They feel productive because they require effort and attention. But none of them necessarily move you toward a larger goal. They're responsive actions, not generative ones. You're reacting to what's in front of you, not creating something new or finishing something important. Research on task switching and attention shows that the brain uses a lot of energy just moving between activities. Every time you shift from one thing to another, there's a cognitive cost. You have to reorient, remember context, decide what to do next. That effort feels like work, because it is work. But it's not the kind of work that produces an outcome. So you can spend an entire day switching between small tasks and feel completely exhausted, even though you didn't complete anything significant. The exhaustion is real. The effort is real. But the output doesn't match the input. Let's say you're working on a report, but you keep getting interrupted by emails. Every time you check your inbox, you're doing something. You're responding, you're staying on top of things. It feels necessary. But each interruption pulls you out of the deeper work that actually requires sustained focus. By the end of the day, the report isn't done, but you were busy the entire time. Or think about someone who spends their morning in back-to-back meetings. They're present, they're contributing, they're engaged. But when the meetings end, they haven't written anything, haven't built anything, haven't moved any of their own projects forward. The meetings were real work, but they didn't produce tangible progress on what that person is actually responsible for delivering. This is where the uncomfortable part comes in. Being busy can actually become a way to avoid the harder, slower work that leads to real progress. Not intentionally. Not consciously. But small, urgent tasks give you immediate feedback. Bigger, important tasks often don't. And your brain naturally gravitates toward what feels rewarding in the moment. You're not procrastinating in the traditional sense. You're working. You're engaged. But you're working on things that feel urgent rather than things that are important. And urgency has a way of filling up all available time if you let it. Studies on productivity and goal completion suggest that people consistently overestimate how much they can accomplish in a day and underestimate how long focused work actually takes. When you're busy, it's easy to convince yourself that you're making progress on everything. But in reality, you're making small amounts of progress on many things and significant progress on very few. This doesn't mean that responding to emails or attending meetings is pointless. Some of that work is necessary. But when those activities consume most of your time, they create the illusion of productivity without the substance of it. You feel like you've been working hard, because you have. You just haven't been working effectively. And here's the thing that makes this so hard to recognize. At the end of a busy day, you're tired. You've used energy. You've been engaged. So it feels like you must have done something meaningful. But exhaustion isn't proof of accomplishment. It's just proof that you were active. The brain doesn't naturally distinguish between effort spent on small reactive tasks and effort spent on deep, focused work. Both use energy. Both create fatigue. But only one tends to produce results that feel substantial when you look back on your week or your month. This doesn't mean you're wasting your time or that everything you do is pointless. It just means that activity and achievement aren't automatically linked. You can be genuinely busy and still not move forward on the things that actually matter to you. The real issue is that busyness is visible and measurable in the moment. You can see the emails you've sent, the meetings you've attended, the tasks you've responded to. Progress on larger goals is often invisible until it's finished. So your brain treats busyness as evidence of success, even when it isn't. This creates a strange loop. You stay busy to feel productive. But the busyness itself prevents you from doing the kind of focused, uninterrupted work that leads to actual completion. And because you're tired at the end of the day, you assume you've been productive. But tired and productive aren't the same thing. So if you've ever felt like you're working constantly but not getting anywhere, this is probably why. You're not lazy. You're not disorganized. You're just caught in a system where motion feels like progress, even when it isn't. And recognizing that gap is the first step toward understanding why your days feel so full but your results feel so empty.